The UFC makes its debut in Ottawa this Saturday for UFC Fight Night 89, the 20th event in Canada, headlined by an amazing welterweight fight between Rory MacDonald and Stephen Thompson. I'm Mike Bohn. This is Jordan Breen of SureDog.com, and we are sitting in the bleachers of TD Place Stadium where the Ottawa Red Blacks of the CFL play. And Jordan, another great event in Canada, another event headlined by a Rory MacDonald fight, and quite possibly it could be his last in the UFC. Just this matchup with Stephen Thompson. I think a lot of people love this fight. Very intriguing clash of styles. How do you really break it down? It seems like not a lot of people know how to assess this fight and what these guys need to do to win. Give us your assessment. What do each of these guys need to do to get the win here?
Well, I mean, both guys definitely need to just fight within themselves. You know what I mean? Rory MacDonald needs to harken back to the same style that got him to a welterweight title shot against Robbie Lawler last year and helped author the 2015 Fight of the Year. He needs to be able to go out there, jab, work distance, try to counterpunch Stephen Thompson. If he's able to hurt him, move him back to the cage, open up the combinations, and if he sees the opportunity to use his wrestling, use it, exploit it as fully as possible. The problem is, because his fight with Robbie Lawler last July was so destructive, so deleterious to both men's health, both guys took such damage, and of course, Rory MacDonald getting his nose smashed and fell in the 5th round. Even though he's only 26 years old, people still have no idea about how he's going to look coming back. That is the question for most people. When you look at Rory MacDonald being a slight underdog in some sports books, it's not because people think Rory MacDonald's less well-rounded than Stephen Thompson. It's not that Stephen Thompson is that devastating of a knockout striker, even though he clearly has an incredible offensive arsenal. It's that people aren't just sure what to expect out of Rory MacDonald against someone that has such high-octane offense. I still favor Rory MacDonald. I don't think that this is a case of a 26-year-old fighter being damaged goods, but frankly, I don't think it's going to shock anyone if 11 months off maybe isn't enough to get over the toll of the Robbie Lawler fight, in conjunction with the fact that, as we saw in his fight with Johnny Hendricks, Stephen Thompson, he's not some karate flash in the pan. It's not just a stylistic bugaboo for some guys. It wasn't just like he landed a surprise kick on Johnny Hendricks. He landed absolutely everything in their fight. He was just tethered to his face, and as soon as he opened up with kicks behind the punches, it was over.
And both guys admitted at Thursday's open workouts that strategizing for this fight has been the most difficult of their career on each side. So it's very compelling. This isn't a Benson Henderson. This isn't a Matt Mitrione. This is a 26-year-old contender who's, the number 2 ranked guy in the world. So much upside, more championship fights in his future very well. So I'll just ask you point blank, yes or no question. Is this the last time we see Rory MacDonald fighting in the UFC?
I don't think so, especially if he wins. Obviously, win and lose has a kind of a big potential rich payoff here. If he wins, he's able to obviously command more money from the UFC. And frankly, welterweight being as good as it is, if he loses, it's not like he's an also-ran. It's not like he could never fight for a title again. But with Tyron Woodley already lined up, this is essentially, as you mentioned off the top, part of the reason that people are so into this fight. It's not just that it's a good style matchup or both guys are highly ranked. This is basically a de facto welterweight title eliminator. The expectation is that the winner of this fight, even if it's Rory MacDonald, he has to wait for a new contract. The expectation is the winner of this fight is going to wait for the winner of Lawler Woodley and fight for the title.
But just moving on from the main event, obviously that's the main fight of the night. You did, and fighting at welterweight, Donald Cerrone, he had his last fight versus Alex Oliveira, but that was kind of a different circumstance. Oliveira is pretty much a lightweight as well. Patrick Cote has fought at 205, fought Tito Ortiz, fought for the title at 185. Breaking down this fight, how much of a factor is size going to play in it?
I think it's interesting too because Cote is clearly the more robust guy. He's physically larger, but it's one of those questionable things about how do you construe larger, because Cerrone's really skinny, but he's got wide shoulders and he's much taller than Cote is. So I mean, if they sit on a bench press rack or start doing squats or something like that, I'm sure Cote can beat Cerrone in lots of gym measurables, but we're talking about two guys that are probably going to want to fire strikes at each other. If they're fighting from distance, Cote is going to have to be that one step inside of Cerrone's jab, that one step inside of all Cerrone's kicks, and box him up. He's got to do what Rafael dos Anjos did in the first fight. I mean, maybe if he's lucky, do what Rafael dos Anjos did in the second fight. As exciting as Cote's resurgence has been, and as lovely as it would be to keep going, I think he's competitive. I do think this might go all 15 minutes, but I still think the better chance to finish this fight, it resides with Cerrone in multiple ways.
It's a great card top to bottom, sold out in 15 minutes according to Tom Wright, so just should be a packed house here in Ottawa on Saturday night, and very much looking forward to it. You can catch all the coverage on MMAJUNKIE.com all fight night, and thank you very much for watching our preview show.